Welcome back to the channel, people. Today we will be grading every single Champions League team's performance thus far in the UCL. We played 6 match days. We got a little bit of break until the match day 7. So I thought, let's give some grades out. What was your worst performing class when you were in school, or if you're still in school? For me, physics, neutrons, protons, electrons, all that sort of stuff, except for Megatron and Transformers. But I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which teams have been such failures that they should already be kicked out of the Champions League? Which teams have really impressed you? And which teams are you just like, hey, we expected to perform like this? First off is Slovan Bratislava. It's expected. This is their first UCL campaign. They've lost 6 games. Okay, do you expect Slovan Bratislava to get 2 wins, to get 1 win? Okay, maybe you could say, Michael, what about Dinamo Zagreb at home? Yeah, Dinamo Zagreb at home, they played a decent game, but then got trounced. What was it, 4-1 or 5-1 in the matchup? Nobody in their right mind should expect Slovan to go away and say, yeah, get 2 wins. No. I think this is expected. They got 6 losses, a minus 16 goal difference. For Slovan Bratislava fans, it's just enjoyment to be in UCL nights. You're hosting Milan at home. You're going away to Atletico. They've been competitive in some games, but they're going to lose every match. PSV, I'm going to be a little bit harsh and say it's substandard. Even though they have been good and they're still in the 23rd spot, so they're in the top 24 going into the knockout round, I feel like some of the performances, like the Shakhtar at home, it took a ridiculous comeback to win that game. All right, then they beat Girona because Girona are just not Girona anymore. Go away to PSG, get a 1-1. It's just some games, they look good. Obviously, they lost to Stade Brestois in the latest game. I think it's been substandard for PSV. They should be beating Shakhtar 4-2. They should be beating Stade Brestois away. Yes, they actually had a good performance against Stade Brestois, and they hit the post. They couldn't convert any chances. I think it's actually substandard for PSV. They should be at least maybe 16 to 20. Right now, they're 23rd. Aston Villa, I'm going to say, is impressive. Not goated performance, because goated performance would be not losing to Club Brugge away. Remember, they lost to Club Brugge away 1-0, but they've beaten Bayern. They maybe could have beaten Juventus at home, even though the game was pretty dire. They went away to RB Leipzig and won. I think for Aston Villa, for their first UCL campaign for a very long time, I think it's actually been impressive. And now we're going to see how far Aston... Can you imagine Aston Villa in the quarterfinals with Unai Emery? Oh my, Villa Park would be rock. Imagine like a quarterfinal matchup between Aston Villa and Liverpool. Mwah. Bellissimo. Or Aston Villa Arsenal. That would be so good. But I think for Aston Villa, they performed much better than what Newcastle did, season ago in the Champions League, where you have to balance Wednesday, Tuesday night to Saturday night. How do you get that rhythm? But because Aston Villa have done such a good squad building, and Duran is just epico at the moment with the way he's performing. So Aston Villa, impressive. Young boys, substandard. I mean, they are the worst team, people. The worst team. They have minus 19 goal difference. Yes, they were not expected to win a lot of games. They've obviously played a hard schedule. They played Aston Villa. They played Barcelona. They played Shakhtar. They played Inter Milan. They played Atalanta. They've had a very tough schedule, young boys. But I think it's a bit disappointing. And yes, they are struggling big time in the Swiss Super League this season. It's really weird how the Swiss League, Basel was great. Then they're failing. But now Basel are a little bit good again. Young boys dominating Swiss Super League. Now they're failing. Really contrasting styles. But for young boys, you got to at least beat Shakhtar. Yes, it's away, but it's a neutral venue at Schalke. Young boys should be doing better. Substandard for them. For Atalanta, it's impressive, right? Gasperini is doing an incredible job. Yes, they just suffered their first loss against Real Madrid, but Atalanta have been overall very good this season in the Champions League. They really should have beaten Arsenal at home if it wasn't the missed penalty. I can't remember. Retegui missed a penalty because Raya made an incredible double save. Atalanta are going to be a very difficult team. My dream is to see this team win the Champions League, or at least the Scudetto. One of those 2 cups, and Gasperini will forever be GOATed, but they have been impressive. What would take them to the GOATed performance is if they beat Real Madrid. If they beat Real Madrid, then they would have been in the GOATed performances, but they lost. They played a really good game, and they're just going to keep on impressing people. And everybody talking about who could be a sleeper team or like a Cinderella team, like a Monaco, Porto back in the day, other teams like Malaga. Atalanta will be this year's because they just have such a good philosophy. They have such a good manager, and their bench with Samardzic and maybe Skavaka coming back. Atalanta, you don't want to play this team. Liverpool, they go to performance. What do you want me to say, people? They're perfect. They're the only perfect team in the Champions League this season. 6 games played, 6 wins. And they've had a tough schedule, people. RB Leipzig, Milan, Real Madrid, you name it. Liverpool have outdone everybody. Easy. And for Arne Slot to be doing this in his first season, and a lot of Liverpool fans, including myself, when I saw the schedule, I was like, this is going to be tough to get into the top 8 at least. But Liverpool have passed with flying colors, give them an A+, and give them no school for an entire week. For how well they are performing, Liverpool go to performance. Sporting, I would say expected. It would have been go to performance, but the last couple of results, they've trickled down. Remember, they were in the top 3. Now they're 17th in the UCL table. 17th since Amorim has left. They lost to Arsenal. They lost to Club Brugge. So they went from go to performance to expected. I expected still to see Sporting at least in the top 16. Now they're 17th, kind of derailing their season. Let's see how they're going to bounce back in 2025. Right now, it's expected. But maybe it could be bumped up to a go to performance by the end of this league phase. But right now, expected. Bologna, they have 1 goal, people. 1 goal for Bologna. Vincenzo Italiano. Now, for Bologna and their fans, I'm pretty sure they don't really care because it's their first UCL campaign in a long time. And they have had a tough schedule, but, you know, the game against Shakhtar, you got to beat at least Shakhtar away. Okay, they played at home, against Shakhtar. All right, then they had home against Lille. They lost that game. So Bologna, yes, they've had a decent schedule, but they've got 1 goal. 1 from Lukumi with I think it was a free kick, if I'm not mistaken. 1 goal. That's it. So, failures. It's harsh because it's their first UCL campaign for a very long time. But I look at Serie A. They're 7th place. They're playing pretty decent football in the Serie A. But the Champions League, you could just see a lack of experience within the team and the manager, Vincenzo Italiano. Yes, he's done it in the Conference League, but the UCL is where the big boys play. RB Salzburg, yeah, let's just put them there. Yeah, they have 1 win this season in the UCL. Feyenoord really should have won that game. I mean, obviously, RB Salzburg were really good, but they have a minus 15 goal difference. They have scored 3 goals in 1 game as well, people, against Feyenoord away. Pep Linders was so bad he got sacked. And I'm now doing some research for the downfall of RB Salzburg, but they've been horrendous in the UCL. They've been horrendous in the Austrian Bundesliga. This team is capitulating, and because of the poor recruiting they have done in the last 2 seasons, you could say, and hiring Pep Linders, which turned out to be a failure, but their performances have not been good. Even the Feyenoord game, like I alluded to, was not good. They just were such a clinical team. Feyenoord were super unclinical on the day, and they took advantage of it. For me, failures. Then we move on to Bayern Munich. I think for Bayern, I think it's expected. Yes, they beat Dinamo Zagreb 9-2. I get it, Bayern fans. But they lost to Aston Villa away. They lost to Barcelona away 4-1. Okay, they've beaten the other opponents that they should be. They've beaten Benfica. They've beaten Shakhtar Donetsk. So, am I impressed by Bayern Munich in the UCL this far? No, I'm not. No, I think it's just expected. Now, if they had beaten Barcelona away, then it's impressive. Nothing spectacular, nothing to be like, oh my god, yep, Bayern are one of the favorites for the UCL. They're still like a top 5, top 6 team in Europe, of course, but Milan are a little bit weird. I think I'm going to put them at substandard. Because when you look at their performances and you look at the games they have played, they played Liverpool first match day, they lost 3-1. They lost to Bayer Leverkusen, had that game against Club Brugge where really Club Brugge played much better than Milan until the red card. They beat Real Madrid away, which was their best performance of the season. Barely beat Slovan Bratislava, barely beat Crvena zvezda. So I think it's been substandard. Considering that their fixtures haven't been the most difficult compared to like an Aston Villa, I think they are substandard. And their whole season, and the last 2 seasons, has been substandard, and it's just amplifying with this UCL campaign. Now, are they still a good team? Do they have the talent? Of course they have got the talent. They don't got the manager, and everything in the background from the signings in the summer is not proving to help this team, rather derailing this team. Milan, you expect better. When you're hosting Crvena zvezda at home, should be 4-1 comfortable. When you go away to Slovan Bratislava, should be 4-1 away. If Dinamo Zagreb go away to Slovan Bratislava and win 4-1, Milan, you should do the same thing. But they're not. And they're really struggling defensively. And like I said, the Club Brugge game, it was very even until the red card. Club Brugge, impressive. I think this team is really one of the most underrated sides in all of Europe because when you look at their performances and you look at the results they've gotten, they've beaten Aston Villa. They've beaten, obviously, Sporting at home. Yes, they had a 3-0 loss to Dortmund, but Dortmund got 3 goals in the last 20 minutes, and Club Brugge actually played a pretty good game. They beat Sturm Graz away. Nothing impressive there. So I think for Club Brugge, you looked at their schedule ahead of this Champions League campaign, you're like, it might be like a 30 to 34, 36 finish. But instead, they are in the top 24. They're having a ridiculous start to this UCL campaign. And I'm being impressed by how well they're going up against the top opponents. Milan away, we don't care. We're going to play football. Celtic away, they actually had pretty good chances and could have won the game. Dortmund at home, frustrating, but they lose eventually 3-0. They beat Aston Villa. Club Brugge are another side where you don't rate the players, you don't rate the team, but this team can play ball because Zolis is a baller. Van Aken, the dude is always performing every European competition, Conference League, Champions League. The dude is always performing. You have Ordóñez in defense, Mignolet in goalkeeper. They got experience, they got young talent, and I think their UCL campaign has been impressive. I'm not going to put PSG as failures, and here's why, people. They are still 25th, right? They got 3 losses, 2 wins, and 1 draw. But when you actually look at their fixtures, they've gone through in the gauntlet. They play in PSV. They're going to play, obviously, Man City still. They played Arsenal away. But some of the performances have still not been good. Girona at home, yeah, they dominated the game. Okay, cool, you had XG. What do you want me to give you? The XG title? No, you still got to get the goals. And they eventually got the goal 1-0 because of Gazaniga's own goal. Yes, they could have won the game against PSV. I still think it's been a little bit substandard from PSG because you expect them to beat PSV at home, at least. Right? They only just got their second win of the campaign against RB Salzburg because RB Salzburg are just going to give you 3 points. So a little bit substandard from PSG. You expect them to be in. If Monaco, Lille, and Stade Brestois are all ahead of you, PSG, you should be in this substandard. If they only had 1 win, maybe it could be failures. Shakhtar Donetsk, I think it's expected. You cannot expect this team right now to be performing. They got 1 win. They got 4 points. They're still eligible to at least make it to the knockout round, but this team just don't have the quality anymore to what they used to have, and their performances haven't been great. They take the 1-0 lead over Bayern Munich and get trounced 5-1. They obviously beat Young Boys at home, but from Shakhtar, am I really impressed by them? No, I'm not. I don't really see a team that can compete. Yes, they went 2-0 up against PSV, but their goalkeeper had one of the craziest performances I've ever seen. Monaco are impressive. They beat Barcelona at home thanks to Barcelona getting an early red card. Yes, they went toe-to-toe against Arsenal. They lost 3-0. They played a lot better in the second half, but then got kicked in the face with 2 late goals. They obviously beat Crvena zvezda at home. So some of the performances have been good, getting a win away to Bologna 1-0. Because remember, in the first 4 match days, they were undefeated. And obviously, they suffered the home loss to Benfica when they had the 10 men. Then they lost to Arsenal away. So they could have been a golden performance. I think it's impressive still from AS Monaco. Good team, got a lot of ballers on the side, Golovin to Aklioche to Benzegir, so they have a lot of talented players, AS Monaco. I think it's been impressive from them. Bayer Leverkusen are an interesting one, and I'm going to put at impressive. Yes, they suffered the draw against Stade Brestois away. They obviously lost heavily to Liverpool 4-0, but they did beat Inter, they did beat Milan, so they own the Milan city. They got the keys for it. Is it go to performance? Definitely not. Could it be expected? Possibly after coming off an invincible season in the Bundesliga. They're keeping a lot of their players. I think Bayer Leverkusen are where they're at. They're still going to be a very difficult team in the knockout round. They're really now impressing with their performances. I think they absolutely dominated the game against Inter. Yeah, they didn't create a lot of goal-scoring chances. They gave Inter nothing in that game. Nothing. So for Bayer Leverkusen, impressive. Juventus, I have as expected. They have been a very good team. They've had a tough schedule. They've played Lille. They've played PSV. They've obviously played RB Leipzig to Man City. Some of the performances have been good. I thought the performance at home against PSV was really impressive. Then the performance away to RB Leipzig, good. But they got absolutely demolished by Stuttgart. Yeah, it only says 1-0. Stuttgart could have easily won that game 3-4-0. The Lille performance, I think it was a worthy draw. Aston Villa away, I wasn't impressed by Juventus. I think they kind of got lucky in the end to get a draw, considering that they didn't offer anything going forward. And this is expected. If Juventus want to be a part of the big boys again after many years of just Allegri ball, basically just watching Barney football, Juventus got to now expect a bit better from their side. And yes, Thiago Motta's really rotating with the team. And it hasn't been super impressive. Now, if they can get into the top 8, then we're going to push it to impressive, because I did not expect Juve to get at least to the top 8. Feyenoord also expected. Feyenoord have had some weird performances. The home performance against RB Salzburg where you're like, what are you guys doing? Then the Man City performance away where they're 3-0 down, but they get it back to 3-3. Feyenoord are one of the most entertaining teams. They got 14 goals scored, 15 goals conceded. So if you're a neutral, just watch Feyenoord. You're going to get amazed by Anis Hadj Musa, Santiago Jimenez, Igor Paixão. They got a lot of good players. David Hansko. You got to at least beat RB Salzburg at home, because RB Salzburg are an atrocious team. Real Madrid, substandard. They should be doing better. Come on. Yes, you could say, Michael, they beat Dortmund. They eventually beat Stuttgart. Okay, yeah, they had home losses against Milan. But the performances have not been good. The away performance against Atalanta, Retegui miss. They could have drawn that game. Madrid could easily be 25th, 23rd, somewhere around there. Now they're a little bit more in a comfortable position, but it's still not been great for Madrid. You expect them to at least be top 8. They're 20th right now. 20th. They've conceded 11 goals and have scored 12 goals. At least they're consistent, 3 wins and 3 losses, but it's not been great for Madrid. They still got some work to do. They're going to obviously play Stade Brestois still in these Champions League games, but I was expecting a bit more. Yes, the injuries have cost them a bit. Ancelotti really having to go into his eyebrow bag with basically switching up personnel after personnel each game. But it's Madrid we're talking about. The defending UCL champions. The team that has won 15 UCLs. They should be at least in the expected zone. Stade Brestois, people would say go-to performance. I'm going to put them at just impressive. And here's why. If you actually look at their schedule, they played Sturm Graz, RB Salzburg, to Sparta Praha. Yes, they got the draw at home against Bayern Leverkusen. They beat, obviously, PSV. Now, if they beat like a Barcelona, if they had beaten Barcelona away, I would have just made a whole different section called Stade Brestois performance, because that would have overtaken the goated performance. But Stade Brestois has still been super impressive. Like, the fact that this is their first UCL campaign, first European campaign, and to be doing what they're doing is nothing short of sensational and just a fairy tale story, but it's impressive. Like the game at home against PSV, their goalkeeper was making incredible saves. After incredible saves. Benfica are also an interesting one because they've had like some good performances and then they've had some weird performances. You know, they lose at home to Feyenoord 3-1. They lose to Bayern Munich away. They destroyed Atletico 4-0. They beat zvezda away. So actually, I think it's impressive to what Benfica have been doing, considering that Bruno Lage came in, when was it, October? Yeah, I think it was October if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, have to go with a new manager. How do you bounce back with the new manager? And their performances have gotten better and better, slowly but surely. Nothing close to go-to performance. They're really on the buffer between impressive and expected. They obviously got the players to do it. They got the talent, but it's just now about how do you perform away from home. Like the performance away to Monaco, they benefited from the red card. Massively, and Angel Di Maria really stepping up in the game. So Benfica is impressive. For Sturm Graz, it's a bit substandard. And here's why, people. They are the defending Austrian Bundesliga champions, but their fixtures have not been the toughest. Lille away 3-2. Obviously, they beat Girona at 1-0 for their only win this season. They lost to Sporting, lost to Dortmund, lost to Club Brugge, obviously lost to Stade Brestois away on the first match day. I was expecting a bit more, you know, emphasis on, okay, let's beat Club Brugge. Let's beat the sides that we can go toe-to-toe against. And they haven't done it. The Girona game, I mean, Girona had one of the worst misses of the season in that matchup. So for Sturm Graz, I think they could be a little bit disappointed, but it's not failures. You're not expecting Sturm Graz to get 3 wins in the first 6 match days. Arsenal, I would say it's impressive. I think it's impressive from Arsenal. Yeah, they also haven't had the toughest of schedules, but they've managed to beat Monaco, Sporting, PSG. Their only loss this season was to Inter away. They beat Shakhtar 1-0, drew 0-0 away to Atalanta. Yeah, some of the games haven't been great from Arsenal, but they are third right now in the UCL league phase, and they've been very good, Arsenal. Like, people want to disrespect Arsenal because of the lack of heritage in European competitions, but when it comes to this UCL campaign, they've been impressive, considering that their attack hasn't been firing in all of the matchups. If their attack is as good as their defense, then Arsenal could definitely win the Champions League. But their attack is just not there at the moment. But they have been quality teams, in my opinion. Like, going away to Sporting on a ridiculous run and beating them 5-1. I was like, whoa, Arsenal. Impressive. Yes, they could have lost the game away to Atalanta. But nonetheless, Arsenal have been impressive in this UCL. Same for Inter. Yeah, they only just lost to Bayer Leverkusen to concede their one and only goal this season in the UCL. They've beaten Arsenal, went away to the Etihad, got a 0-0 draw with Man City before Man City imploded and became Man City of the early 2000s. I think Inter, you just look at them and you're like, nah, these guys can win the UCL. And Inzaghi is just that guy. They have the UCL experience. They've been to UCL final. Maybe we were hoping that Inzaghi would play his best 11 in every UCL game, but the guy understands this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we want to be the marathon winners with all the trophies. And Inter are still impressive, in my opinion, even though they had that terrible performance against Bayer Leverkusen. Girona, substandard. I mean, what do you want me to say, people? Yes, it's their first ever European campaign, first UCL campaign. But, my God, I mean, performances like away to PSV losing 4-0. All right, they lose to PSG 1-0 away. They lose to Feyenoord at home 3-2. They had a good performance at home against Liverpool 1-0. But you can't lose away to Sturm Graz. This is Girona still. This is a La Liga team. You're going away to Sturm Graz and losing? But when you think objectively, you think of a La Liga team, you expect them to be at least in the top 24. With that schedule, they haven't had a crazy schedule like PSG, like Club Brugge, in my opinion. They've had, okay, some difficult opponents, PSG, still Liverpool, still to come up, Arsenal, but Girona, they play the good football, but with no end product whatsoever. Celtic, for me, I'm impressed, guys. And I did say that they would make the top 24 and really now have a chance of making it to the knockout round. And they've been great. They've only suffered one loss. Yes, that one loss was embarrassing. 7-0 to Borussia Dortmund, which cannot be allowed if you're Celtic. They've beaten RB Leipzig. They got a 0-0 draw away to Atalanta. 1-1 draw at home to Club Brugge. I think Celtic are a very good team. Yeah, the 0-0 draw to Dinamo Zagreb could have been a little bit better performance. Maybe could have tried to go for the win there. But Celtic are managing this UCL league phase very well. They understand. For us, it's about getting into the top 24. Brendan Rodgers has done a very good job, and I've been impressed when they play at home. Now you just want to see a little bit more of a desire to get a win away from home. Yes, you're going to some tough grounds like Atalanta away, never easy. Atalanta could have easily won that game. Kasper Schmeichel made some incredible saves. After the Dortmund loss, they really had a reality check like, okay, now we got to show the heritage of Celtic football. And now they are performing at a good level. And their main objective is to get into the top 24. And based on the performances they've done so far, I think they've been impressive. And that's why I got them in the impressive zone. Yeah, RB Leipzig straight there. Put them next to the other Red Bull teams because they've been an embarrassment all season. Failures. Yes, they've had a tough schedule, RB Leipzig. 6 losses. 6 losses for RB Leipzig. I mean, yes, they've had a tough schedule, but RB Leipzig have been nothing short of an embarrassment this season. The home performance against Juventus, you're up against 10 men. Win the game. They can't do that. Home against Aston Villa, they get it back to 2-2 and let it go away for a 3-2 loss. They're out of this competition, and that means they're failures. Bundesliga team, they've been in the UCL before. You expect a lot better. Failures for RB Leipzig. Stuttgart, am I harsh to put them in substandard? A little bit. I'm going to put them in substandard though. But here's why I'm going to put them in substandard. Yes, they had a very good performance against Real Madrid. They lost the game 3-1. 1-1 draw with Sparta Praha. Cannot happen. The incredible performance against Juventus away where they could have easily won 5-0. I mean, they demolished Juve that day. They lost to Atalanta at home and then they got destroyed by Crvena zvezda 5-1 and beat Young Boys 5-1. I would expect them to at least beat Sparta Praha. Narrow win over Crvena zvezda away. They lost to Crvena zvezda, got demolished. So I think for Stuttgart, it's incredible that they had a second place finish last year in the Bundesliga. But the performance has got to be a little bit better. They played very good football. They're out of the top 24 at the moment. If they had beaten Crvena zvezda, I would have put them in expectant. But you got demolished and embarrassed. 5-1. So Sparta Praha had a good start to the UCL campaign, getting 4 points in the first 2 match days. And then since then, they've suffered 4 losses, including 6-0 at home to Atletico, 4-2 loss to Feyenoord, 5-0 loss to Man City, 2-1 loss at home to Stade Brestois. So for Sparta, based on the performances they had in the first 2 games, you're like, hey man, this team can go up against, the Stuttgarts, the Club Brugges. And instead, they flopped. They are a decent team. They showed in the first 2 match days. I don't know what's happened to them since. Is it a bit harsh to put them in substandard? Possibly because it is a Czech team and you don't really expect a Czech team to make it in the top 24, even though the Czech league is very competitive with the likes of Slavia Praha to Victoria Pilsen. You cannot get embarrassed at home 6-0. 6-0 to Atleti. If you lose 3-0, fair enough. 6 is pretty bad. They were 4-1 down to Feyenoord. They were 3-0 down in the first 30 minutes because Priske said, oh, I look at my old side. I'm just going to embarrass them today. That's what happened. Dinamo Zagreb, I'm going to put them at expected. They could have been a lot higher in the impressive zone, but just the fact that they lost 9-2. And that 9-2 result was so embarrassing, their manager got sacked then. Then they lost to, obviously, Dortmund at home 3-0. They got the 0-0 draw with Celtic. They beat RB Salzburg. They beat Slovan Bratislava. They got a 2-2 draw with Monaco. I expect Dinamo to beat, RB Salzburg based on the way RB Salzburg have been. I expect them to beat Slovan Bratislava. If they beat Celtic or they beat Monaco at home, they could have been bumped up to an impressive. They are still in the top 24, Dinamo Zagreb, so it's a fantastic season so far in the UCL. Dinamo Zagreb have been a very tough team in Europe in the last couple of years. Remember when they made it to the Europa League semi-final when their manager was in prison? Dortmund also expected, okay, some Dortmund fans would be like, Michael, we're 9th place. We've only suffered 2 losses to Madrid and Barcelona. Look at the other teams Dortmund have played against. Dortmund have played Dinamo Zagreb. They beat them, of course. They beat Sturm Graz at home. They beat Club Brugge. They beat Celtic. Like, you expect Dortmund to beat these teams. And Dortmund have played a good game against Barcelona, but lost the matchup. If they beat Barcelona, Dortmund would have been an impressive tally. They're expected. And it's Nuri Sahin's first season as the manager. They've suffered a lot of injuries. Like, I know Dortmund are really on the bare bones with the defense, but you expect them to beat Sturm Graz. You expect them to beat Club Brugge. And I think with that schedule, 6 through 10 is where Dortmund should be. Dortmund fans should be expecting them to beat Barcelona at home. That's their first UCL home loss for a while, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 years. Barcelona, I'm going to put them in go to performance. Yes, they have suffered one loss and they're not perfect like Liverpool in the UCL league phase, but they have had very impressive results in this UCL. The Monaco game, they were down to 10 men early on in the game. They have scored 21 goals, which is the most in the UCL. They have a plus 14 goal difference, which is the most in the UCL. They obviously destroyed Bayern Munich at home 4-1. They went away to Dortmund and won 3-2. Not many teams can do that. And they obviously beat the other opponents that they should be. So for the Barcelona, this is actually a very good UCL campaign. You cannot be harsh and say, Michael, they have a loss. They shouldn't be there. No, come on. You got to be a little bit objective and say, Barcelona have been in the teams they should be, and then they put up very good performances against top-tier teams in Europe, like a Bayern Munich, like a Dortmund. Man City? Man City are definitely failures. They're 22nd in the Champions League. They drew with Inter 0-0, beat Slovan Bratislava 4-0, beat Sparta Praha 5-0, lost to Sporting 4-1, 3-0 up against Feyenoord, dropped it, and then lost to Juve. I think for Man City, based on the expectation, based on the team, based on the manager, this team are failures so far. In the Man City, everybody had them top 3 in the UCL. Everybody. Now, they're 22nd and have a critical game against PSG in January. Lille, go to performance. Go to performance for Lille, people. Lille are currently 8th in the UCL campaign. 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Wins over both Madrid teams. Home against Real, away to Atletico. Many teams don't go to the Wanda and win a game. Yeah, Lille did that. They drew 1-1 with Juventus. Their only loss was against Sporting when Sporting were unstoppable with Ruben Amorim. They suffered a red card early in their game. The boss scored a ridiculous goal. So Lille have been... Nobody expected them to be top 8. Nobody expects Lille to beat Atletico away, beat Madrid at home. It's incredible what they're doing. They're doing an incredible job. Chevrolet, their goalkeeper, what a goalkeeper he's going to be. I think he's like only 22, 23. Some of the saves he's making are outstanding. Haraldson off the bench. Obviously, you have the likes of Segrova, to Jonathan David. And they've suffered a lot of injuries. Like Angel Gomez, I think he's been out for the last 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. So he's missed a lot of critical games. But Lille, they said, cool, next man up. Next man up. And always there's going to be another man stepping up for Lille in this UCL campaign. And right now, they are go to performance. I did not expect them to get top 8, let alone top 24. I thought they were going to finish 25th, 26th, 27th, or somewhere around there. Zvezda, a little bit substandard. I mean, they have lost 5 games and only have 1 win. The 1 win, very impressive against Stuttgart. But they have a -9 goal difference. They are scoring the goals, but they cannot keep a clean sheet at the moment, can Zvezda. And yes, they've had a tough schedule. They've played Benfica, Inter away, Monaco away, Barcelona at home, Stuttgart at home, Milan away. And they had a good performance against Milan away. So maybe it's a little bit harsh to put Zvezda there. Maybe that you could bump them up to expected with the likes of Slovan Bratislava and Shakhtar. But I would expect a little bit better from Zvezda defensively, right? Goal scoring, not an issue. The defense, 19 goals conceded, is wild. And the last team is Atletico, and Atletico goes straight to expected because, yes, they beat PSG away. The performance was not good. I think they got super lucky in that game. Yes, they beat RB Leipzig at home. They got destroyed by Benfica 4-0. They lost to Lille at home. They obviously beat then Sparta Praha and Slovan Bratislava, but Atletico are expected to beat those teams. But the 4-0 loss away to Benfica, yes, they're right now 11th in the Champions League table. But Diego Simeone and his team, they were expecting a little bit more, maybe a top 8 finish based on the schedule that they did have. And yes, recently they obviously have an 11-game winning streak. They're playing really good football. But let me know your thoughts, people. Where would you rank your team in the performances so far in the UCL? Are you in the go-to performance, impressive, expected, substandard, failures? Let me know your rankings in the comments down below. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Remember to follow me on all the socials, description down below. But have a beautiful day. Stay safe in this crazy world. Till next time. Adios.